Long, long time ago.
February 3rd, 1959 is a day that was immortalized forever as the day the music died, thanks to Don McLean's American Pie.
Make me smile.
But if music really died that day, then we should probably ask who killed it, and one possible answer to this question is the Beatles. Here's why. How do the Beatles connect here? Let's back up. American Pie's lyrics revolve around the tragedy of February 3rd, 1959, the day when three legendary musicians, Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and Big Bopper Richardson, were all killed in a plane crash. But of course the song, which was written by Don McLean about a decade after the accident, is about much more than that. It's about nostalgia. It's filled with references to 50s culture, and it longs for different times, different generation, different music. Rock and roll, which broke into the mainstream in 1954 and started to die out only a few years later when the greats were picked off one by one. Elvis recruited into the army, Chuck Berry in jail, Little Richard became a born-again Christian, Jerry Lee Lewis was shunned for marrying his 13-year-old cousin. Some people looked at all of these events and saw a conspiracy, or even the hand of God is striking against the new rebellious genre. Others bemoaned what seemed to be an end of an era, and indeed those were the final days of rock and roll as a significant, meaningful phenomenon, soon to be replaced by a new wave of British rock bands, the British Invasion led by the Beatles. But American Pie, at least to me, is about much more than simple nostalgia or one musical genre replacing another. Rather, it's about a seeming betrayal in musical values. The Beatles, as well as the rest of the British Invasion bands, they started out as basically a new wave of rock and roll, continuing the legacy of primitive energy, hard-driving, rebellious, full of mojo, blues-based rock music. But they quickly became something completely different. They became artistic. They started to write their own songs with complicated and literary and meaningful lyrics. They started to experiment with different and often disturbing and dissonant noises that you can create in a studio. They embraced the idea of a concept album, an album which is more than a collection of songs, but a coherent work of art, with all of the different songs creating a narrative together, and that is meant for a silent and concentrated listening, much like you would listen to a classical piece. They took their inspiration from modernist avant-garde classical composers, and they accompanied their songs with classical string quartets. Their music became sophisticated and smart in structure, but some people just felt that all of this sophistication came at the expense of pure and mindless fun that rock and roll used to have. As McLean says right in the beginning of the song, "And I knew if I had my chance, then I can make these people dance and maybe they'll be happy for a while." I think the protagonist in McLean's song longs for the old music that had no other aspirations other than to make people smile and dance and forget about their troubles. Not unlike much modern pop music. As he says in the fourth verse, "Now the halftime there was sweet perfume, while Sgt. Played a marching tune," referring to Sgt. Pepper, which is one of the most famous concept albums of the time. "We all got up to dance, but we never got the chance. The music was undanceable." In other words, the new rock and rollers betrayed their original role. The whole purpose of rock and roll music was to be a slap in the face of the old white institution, with its old values, its unnaturalness and suppressed sexuality, with its grooveless music that suppressed the rhythmic element the same way that it suppressed the body itself. Rhythm in music is thought of as a symbol for the natural body, and instead dwelled in the pure spheres of mind and emotion. The early rock and rollers flew in the face of all that by creating music that aimed strictly at the pelvis and had no mind at all. Simple, dumb, pulsating music that kind of forced the body to react, to move, to dance. In the words of Chuck Berry, "Roll over Beethoven, tell Tchaikovsky the news," meaning that we, the rock and rollers, we came here to replace you, Tchaikovsky, you and everything that you stand for. And now the protagonist in Don McLean's song is looking over the destruction of the old generation and into the new generation's music, and it just can't believe it. Rock music became exactly the thing that it was against. It embraced the old Western ideas of pure art. So to answer my original question from before, how the Beatles destroyed music, they made it into art. And in the words of music critic Nick Cohn, yeah, they called the Beatles art, but what is so great about art anyway? Of course, you can make the opposite argument as well, that rather than destroying it, that the Beatles were actually saving rock music. That if they hadn't taken this extra step to elevate their music, then rock music would have been remembered as just a phase. That it's thanks to them that this period, the late 60s and early 70s, is considered by many as the golden turn of rock music and popular music in general. That their artistic approach is exactly what made their music so timeless and their name synonymous with musical brilliance, almost like Mozart and Beethoven. Many feel that the Beatles combined the primal energy of blues and rock and roll with the artistic sophistication of Western classical music, creating a whole that is larger than the sum of its parts, the way that only truly great art does. What do you guys think? Did late-era Beatles destroy popular music with their pretentiousness, or did they save it? Would love to hear your thoughts, and until the next time,